Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. Hopefully, everybody's having a good day so far today. September is in the rear view, and we have hit October, which is a big part of the NFL season and a big stretch of games coming up here for the New York Jets, as October will start off for the Jets on Sunday morning against the Minnesota Vikings out in London. Today is episode 394 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you as always for joining me. And today we've got some breaking NFL news to talk about, and it directly correlates with the New York Jets, and that is Davante Adams officially requesting a trade out of Las Vegas. He wants out of the Raiders, and the New York Jets and Joe Douglas should be making every call necessary because Davante Adams needs to be a New York Jet before the trade deadline. As always, before we discuss all this, though, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. What makes our partnership with BetUS so great is you can click my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000. NFL season is in full swing. Week 5 is rapidly approaching. You've got MLB playoffs that began today. You've got the baseball or the basketball and hockey seasons right around the corner. October is the best month for sports, all four of the major sports in action all at once. And that's your one-stop shop to do all of your betting and gambling is over at BetUS. Use my link, 125% sign-up bonus, first three deposits up to $2,000. And hey, we're talking about him today. Let's take a look at some Davante Adams next team odds. Jets at minus 200, Chiefs at plus 400, Ravens at plus 450, and the Buffalo Bills, division rivals, plus 500. So all projections show Davante Adams will stay in the AFC. It's just where will he go? That is the next big question. Also, of course, make sure to check out our friends over at Huga House. They've got special edition Aaron Rodgers 20th season hats. This one in black, and you've seen me wear this one all the time, the green one. If you want either of these two hats, make sure to click the Huga House link in the description of this video, and at checkout, use promo code BUBS for 15% off your purchase. Or not just those two hats, but any of these ones that Rodgers wears all the time. Make sure to go check them out. And of course, our friends over at SeatGeek. Looking for Jets tickets, last-minute tickets to London? Make sure to check out SeatGeek. What makes SeatGeek so great is you don't have to waste time trying to figure out if you're making the right purchase or not, if the price for the seat is the right price, because SeatGeek tells you. You know where the good deals are. Look for the green dots on the seating chart. SeatGeek has it. Promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. All right, now let's get into today's podcast. And I'll be honest, this kind of felt like a typical week in Jetland, right? You get the Sunday loss against Denver, which was brutal, and I'm still bitter over it. It's one of those losses that I will not get over it until the Jets win. Whether that's this weekend, whether that's next weekend, whenever the next time the Jets win, it's one of those losses, and they better not lose this weekend because I will be off the rails if this team with Aaron Rodgers finds a way to fall to 2-3 on the season after being 2-1 and getting an opportunity to start up 3-1 against Denver. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. This is going to be a little bit more of a positive episode. We're talking about Davante Adams, baby. Come on. We got to be a little bit more positive than we've been. But either way, this is a typical New York Jets week, right? Sunday debacle, 10-9, 2023 game all over again. Yesterday, more frustration. The day after, you hear Saleh speak, trying to walk back his comments of the cadence that he mentioned in the postgame, all that nonsense. We know Saleh's not a good coach. He's not good in front of the podium, right? So you get all that yesterday, more frustration, more takeaways. We discussed it, more ranting, more venting. Then you get up today, and for me, Tuesday's always kind of the flip the page day. Tuesday's also the day where I start to, I don't want to sound like a coach, but Tuesday's also the day where I start to, watch the Vikings, start to, do a little bit more research on them as I get my game preview ready, start looking up some numbers, look up what they do well, all that stuff. And we'll have a guest on from the Vikings on Thursday, so make sure to check that out. Can't wait for that, as we do every week with the opponent, bringing on an analyst from the opponent to get their side of things. But this is typical, right? The last 48 hours have been very difficult, very frustrating, very annoying. And then you get this nugget. Davante Adams today requests a trade. And here is the official report from earlier today. Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo of NFL Network breaking: Raiders star wide receiver Davante Adams informed the team that he preferred to be traded, per me and Mike Garafolo. He also went on to say there is nothing imminent but a situation to watch for. Sure. He also went on to say this a couple minutes later. This is still Ian Rappaport. The Raiders are trying to win games, and there are plenty of scenarios where Davante Adams stays in Las Vegas. I highly doubt that, but according to this, there is still a possibility that happens. But there are also scenarios where he's headed elsewhere, and he'll have a market. So those are the two biggest updates. But the point is to the Jets. Disappointing 48 hours, all this frustration, and here comes Davante Adams requesting a trade. Davante Adams, he's gonna get traded to the Jets. This is great. Davante Adams, Garrett Wilson, and it's like, oh, we're positive again. I'm not quite so positive, but this is it. And then you start to get your hopes up. Oh, beat Minnesota. Here we go. Get Davante Adams. We're rolling, baby. We're rolling. So typical timing. Like, this timing was so typical to get you bought back in again in this team. Right when they just punch you in the face on Sunday, you hear this and you're like, oh, buy me back in, baby. Come on. So typical Jet stuff here. But in all seriousness, though, this is a major report. And there was also another report that just came out about 5 minutes ago from Schultz, who reported on Davante Adams and a little bit more in detail about what how the situation is developing. Jordan Schultz tweeted out that, he will, of course, requesting a trade, and he is aware that his contract makes a trade possible, all this stuff. He also mentioned the Jets are one of the teams that are involved in this, and they should be. The New York Jets have to go after Davante Adams. Now, before I get into what he could bring to the table, a potential trade, all that stuff, it felt like this was in the making for a while. I mean, look, you even go back to the offseason, and it felt like this was something that was going to happen, right? We all circled the trade deadline on our calendar. Raiders start off, 3-6. They start out 2-5, whatever. They start to fall apart. Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, whoever's out there is not playing well. If the Jets are doing well, Aaron Rodgers is playing well. Davante Adams has talked about so many times how he wants to go back to play with Rodgers, potentially wherever that may be. This case, obviously, with the Jets. But I don't think this should come by a surprise, right? We knew this was coming. It was only a matter of time. And it only took 4 weeks. The hamstring injury, which is kind of fishy. It feels like if he were to get traded to the Jets right now, that hamstring injury would go away. But I want to break down some comments that Davante Adams had today on the Kay Adams show, which kind of started all of this. And then it feels like you heard the report earlier today that the Raiders were open to trading him. And then you got the report, or you got this, where he was interviewed with Kay Adams and was talking more about the situation. And they asked him if he feels he played his last Raider game, if he's happy there. And he completely dodged the question. Completely dodged it, basically saying, yeah, I don't want to be here. I don't know if I played my last game, that kind of thing, which we'll play you the clips here in a second. And then, of course, the report comes out that he is, in fact, requesting a trade. So here's the first clip. Davante Adams, have you played your last game as a Vegas Raider?
And what I'm hearing is that here's what a lot of people think: you may never play another down as a Raider. What would you say to that?
All I can control is this talk we're having right here, and then after we're done with this, all I can control is the next thing that I'm on to. So I'm gonna get up in a minute and get a nice workout in, and that's all I can control.
31 teams are about to go at 32, including you're just gonna. Here's the thing: you have the chance to shut the door, but it's not. This is what I'm hearing from Davante. It's not about you. It's you are settled and you're on to the next, and there's a lot more going on. I hope you hear from your coach today.
Yeah, I do too.
Thank you. Oh, boy. Thank you, Davante Adams. Appreciate you. Feel better, most importantly.
So that last part, too, is pretty telling. I do, too. I hope you hear from your coach. I do, too. Clearly not much communication between Antonio Pierce and Davante Adams, and we knew this was coming. last year Antonio Pierce comes over. It's a feel-good story. And look, I mean, you got to give Pierce some credit. The Raiders have found a way, to be 2-2 right now. They beat the Ravens on the road. They had a bad loss against Andy Dalton and the Panthers at home. But they're 2-2 right now. So the wheels haven't completely fallen off, but clearly, whatever it is, there is a disconnect there between Davante Adams. We knew this was coming in the offseason. He talked highly. Oh, I'm at the Raiders, but we knew it was only a matter of time until he started to play with Gardner Minshew, started to play with Aiden O'Connell, and you knew it was only a matter of time where he would grow frustrated, probably find a disconnect with the coach. And here we are entering week 5 as they get set to play the Broncos on the road. We've got a trade request. Now, this was Davante Adams also talking about Antonio Pierce, who liked a post on Instagram that suggested Davante Adams should get traded. This was Davante Adams, another thing that sparked rumors yesterday about a potential trade.
So this big story happens where they think your coach, or your coach did, I actually don't know, likes this post about you getting traded. When you heard of that, I guess my first question is, how soon did you hear from Coach?
Yeah, I haven't heard from him. I haven't talked to him. So I haven't, I don't know. I don't really know exactly what that was about. Obviously, I got, social media is a beast. So it's a lot of people out there that saw it and, wondering what's going on and people reaching out. And yeah, I haven't spoke to him.
So I'm going to cut the clip there because it goes on a little bit longer, but I wanted just to get that first part. Hasn't spoke to the coach, all that stuff. So again, you could tell all this stuff was leading up. And it's funny. This is why I'm actually doing this podcast a little bit later. I was just about to hit record on a podcast earlier about Davante Adams trade rumors heating up. And I'm glad I didn't, because here we are now, of course, talking about an actual trade request. Schedule and things obviously require me here to do this pod a little bit later in the day. But yeah, I mean, you could tell again, this was coming. Now, I want to show you another clip here. Davante Adams on Aaron Rodgers, possibility of playing with him again. This guy's going to be a Jet.
Aaron's the type of guy, he may be in a huddle and he'll tell you in a 2-minute situation at the end of the game, 46 seconds left in the game, and he'll say, "Hey, Tate or Garrett, like you remember back in 2022 when we got that one look and you didn't look quick enough. Like I need you to just get your eyes around quick." So, just filing that away in your memory bank, dealing with the elephant, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
You got to be able to recall and correct some of those mistakes.
Davante, I think you miss him.
How could you not? How could you not?
Just hearing you talk about him, it's an amazing thing that I just think you miss him. That's all.
So there's more comments there from Davante on Rodgers there towards the end. How can you not miss him? All that stuff. Now, I want to get into realistic trade here, possibility. Look, I think Davante Adams does become a Jet. I know when you look across the rest of the AFC, and here's why. I also think the Jets also have a very clear path, unlike these other teams. When you look across the rest of the AFC and where Davante could land, right? We threw that Bet US graphic up there earlier about the 4 teams with the best odds. Jets, of course, lead the way. They're -200. That's not a surprise. Shouldn't be a surprise. Aaron Rodgers is the biggest selling point here. They want to team back up together, get a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. They can do that here in New York. Bearing the head coach doesn't have his head up his rear end the rest of the year. Either way, that's besides the point. But the reason I bring up those other teams is, well, you look at the other teams in the conversation. The Kansas City Chiefs are in the Raiders division. They are in the AFC West. I highly doubt the Raiders, who have been looking up at the Chiefs for years now with Patrick Mahomes, are going to trade Davante Adams, who have watched the Chiefs win back-to-back Super Bowls in their division, are going to trade Davante Adams to the Chiefs so the rich get richer, and then they can watch Davante Adams win a Super Bowl and go for a three-peat in their own division. That I highly doubt. I don't see an in-division trade happening. Does it make sense for Kansas City? Yeah. Rashee Rice going down for the year definitely makes sense. Marquise Brown, of course, was already down 100%. But it's in division. I don't see it happening, especially when I look at the success Kansas City have. Why would Vegas want to make them stronger? So that part of it, that kind of has puts a dampen on that. And then you go to the Buffalo Bills. While it makes sense, Bills could use receiver help, Bills cap room right now, cap space is very, very tough. And I know the cap, some people say, isn't quite real, but it would be really tough for Buffalo to make this trade middle of the year with very little flexibility from a cap space perspective. And also, the Bills just got rid of their number one receiver in Stephon Diggs because there was clearly a disconnect between him and Allen. Allen has talked about just last week how it feels nice to not have receivers worried about stats, all that stuff. Bringing in Davante Adams, not that Davante Adams is worried so much about stats, but he's going to want his touches. He's going to want his opportunities. So there will be a point there where Allen, who just got over trying to force feed Diggs, who just got over that, would then have to kind of go right back into that with Davante Adams. So that I don't see. The only other team that I think is really realistic and makes sense is the Baltimore Ravens, which is also on this list here at number 3 at plus 450. Mark Andrews has been terrible. They need receiver help. That makes sense, and it's in the AFC, but it's in the North. But Buffalo with the cap space, what they just got over with Stephon Diggs, and then the Chiefs in their division, I don't see it happening. So to me, it feels like Jets, Ravens, and I think Davante will have some say in this, and he's ultimately going to choose Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. That's what's ultimately going to happen. And what will it take? We'll see. Only time will tell. I think there is certainly a possibility that maybe they throw Hassan Reddick in the move. Do you throw Hassan Reddick in there in a third-round pick? Does that get it done? I don't know. How much does Vegas value the possibility of Crosby and Reddick playing on the opposite ends of each other? But also remember what Vegas would then have to bring in. They would be bringing in Hassan Reddick, who's going to want a new contract. So are they willing to do that? Are they willing to take, a blow and take some salary off of the Jets' hands to get Davante Adams, or to trade away Davante Adams, but then also have to take on what is a contract mess in itself in Hassan Reddick? Or that could maybe be the way of the Jets saying, we'll pay for Davante. Here's our version of taking Davante's salary off your hand. We'll dump one of our issues with your issue. Not that the Jets are, of course, paying Hassan Reddick. He is doing one of the dumbest holdouts we've ever seen in professional sports. Might be the dumbest holdout, by the way, in professional sports. We haven't talked about Hassan Reddick a lot because he's been a non-factor, and I've said enough about him. Legitimately might be one of the dumbest holdouts, though, in professional sports. The amount of money he is losing is wild. It's wild. Terrible. So does that happen? We'll see. The early reports are they're going to want second-round pick and more. The Jets have a third. They have picks they can use. It's Davante Adams. They need Davante Adams. Davante Adams comes into this team. He is automatically the best weapon on offense. He is automatically the number one receiver. And we talk about Garrett Wilson right now having struggles. Davante Adams not only brings what he brings to the table as a receiver, he will also open up Garrett Wilson. Because defenses are going to be so focused on Davante, they're going to shift their attention off of Garrett, and that's going to give him a whole lot more opportunities, and that's where you're really going to be able to see that explosive 1-2 punch, become real. He automatically is the number one guy. Automatically. And he's still got a lot left in the tank. I know he's 31. Yeah, he's probably at the end of his prime. But this is a guy that's had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, has managed to put up back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, including 1,500 yards in 2022 in Las Vegas, which has been a dumpster fire of an organization for the last couple seasons. He has found a way. Last year found a way with a circus at quarterback to put up 1,100 yards and over 100 receptions. The guy's a beast. The guy's a monster. Look at some of his best seasons in Green Bay. It's nuts what this guy has been able to do with Aaron Rodgers. And they're close. And he automatically becomes the best player on the offense. You do it. It's going to have a cost attached to it. You got to give up to get. But in an all-in year, in a win-now year with Aaron Rodgers, in this 1 to 2 year Aaron Rodgers window, you have to get this deal done. We talk about Joe Douglas's job, his job security, even Salah's. If Joe Douglas and the Jets this year miss the playoffs and they don't go out and trade for Davante Adams, you are going to be living in a whole lot of regret as a Jets fan. At least if they get Davante Adams and they miss the playoffs, you know what? You went all in. You went all in. This is a move. This is one of the most important next couple of weeks in Joe Douglas's tenure as a general manager. He has to get this deal done. You're all in. You say you're all in. Go out and whatever it takes, get Davante Adams in the green and white. There's no excuses. No excuses. And the quarterback, I'm sure, won't be the happiest guy either if he sees him go to a Baltimore or somebody else. Get this done, Trader Joe. Get this deal done. You have to. 100%. Get it done. I don't think it's going to take Garrett Wilson, and I wouldn't make that deal. People are saying, "Oh, you're going to have to trade Garrett Wilson." I doubt that. I don't. They're not doing that. That's not happening. They're going to figure something else out. So that's the latest on Davante Adams. He requests to trade out of Vegas. When does this deal go down? Only a matter of time. I hope sooner rather than later. I hope this isn't something that takes weeks. I mean, ideally, is this something that maybe develops next week? How fast does this develop? Do we get up tomorrow morning and we see Joe Douglas working the night shift again like he usually does in free agency? We get an alert on our phone at like 1:06 in the morning saying Davante Adams to the Jets. And he hops on a flight right from Vegas right out to London and is out there catching touchdown passes on Sunday. That's another thing, too, with Davante. Now, that is completely wishful thinking. That is not happening. That's another thing to do with Davante Adams. Davante Adams would be a very rare case of an in-season trade where he can come in and play right away. Oftentimes, and be a factor right away. Oftentimes, in-season trades in the NFL, and this is what makes it so difficult to at the trade deadline, is oftentimes teams, right? A player comes over, it takes them a week or two. They got to learn the system. They got to learn the playbook. I'm sure there is new, intricacies, however you say it. And I'm sure there's new things that the Jets have implemented in this offense. But a lot of it's Green Bay. And a lot of it was all those years that Davante Adams spent in Green Bay. It's all pretty similar. So Davante could step in. He could get traded next Monday or next Wednesday. As long as he's healthy and the hamstring's really not a big deal. Maybe it's more so just trade related. And he could step in and play out there Monday and play a good vast majority of the snaps and know the system because he's been in it before. So that's another thing, too, that you benefit here. And also Davante's mindset, I think, has to kind of be the same there as well. He goes to Kansas City, learn new system. Buffalo, new system. Baltimore, new system. He comes here, there's no learning. You could just jump right in and get his numbers right away. So it's happening. I strongly believe this is happening. You could have made a case that if Rodgers stayed healthy last year, this could have been something that happened last season. Where there's smoke, there's fire. This has been something that has been talked about the minute the Jets traded for Aaron Rodgers. This has been talked about. If we're being honest, the minute the Jets struck a trade for Aaron Rodgers, this was a conversation, especially with where the Raiders were at that point with a disaster at head coach in Josh McDaniels. We've been talking about this since April of 2023. It's been a year and a half of this. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, not when, not if, just a matter of when. So that'll do it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below on Davante Adams, the trade rumors, and, of course, much more. As I mentioned, Thursday afternoon, we will have a episode up discussing Jets-Vikings with a Minnesota Vikings analyst. So make sure to check that out. Stay tuned for that. Can't wait. As we do every week, talking to the opposing side as the Jets get set to head to London and take on the Minnesota Vikings, looking to avoid a 2-3 start. We'll kind of be heads up with this Davante Adams thing. Davante Adams, of course, if he does get dealt, we'll have a reaction right away. If there's any more news, notes, of course, we'll have it all right here on the pod. But definitely episode Thursday, and stay tuned for anything else in between. So as always, until next time, make sure to please like and subscribe for those tuning in on YouTube. Appreciate you all as well listening to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, JETS, 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 Jets.